Avery's whispered word, Nightingale, froze the Mafia boss mid-conversation across the auction house, because those were the last syllables his wife Claire spoke before assassins executed her for what she knew. Logan Pierce moved like a predator closing distance, his hand clamping down on Avery's shoulder as his voice turned lethal. My wife died investigating that name, and you just became the only person who can tell me why. So we're leaving right now, and if you run, my men have orders to assume you're connected to her killers. The exits were already blocked, and Avery understood with sickening clarity that the childhood trauma she'd spent 18 years escaping had just collided with a grief-stricken mafia boss who'd stop at nothing to avenge his murdered wife. The panic attack had hit me on the subway. 20 minutes of white-knuckled breathing exercises while commuters complained about delays. 18 years in this city, 18 years since I'd escaped the wreckage of Mercy Hill Reform Institute, and the director who'd made sure no one ever found what they'd done to us. And I still couldn't see religious artifacts without my chest tightening. What I didn't know was that speaking that name aloud would connect me to a murder investigation and force me to face the monsters I'd been running from since childhood. The warmth of the auction house wrapped around me like expensive perfume. Soft lighting glinted off the polished marble floors, casting everything in the golden glow that only old money could afford. The space was moderately full. Collectors in tailored suits, donors with practiced smiles, all scattered among the velvet ropes that protected this month's featured pieces. Medieval religious art, naturally. Low classical music drifted from hidden speakers, mixing with the hushed conversations and the soft tread of designer shoes on polished stone. I made my way past a 14th century illuminated manuscript, peeling off my coat and draping it over my arm. My hands were still unsteady, the residual tremor from the attack refusing to fade. The auction coordinator gave me a subtle nod of recognition. I'd been here often enough in my role as a museum curator that my presence raised no questions. That's what I'd built here, a life where I raised no questions. Ms. Chase, the coordinator appeared at my elbow, her black suit immaculate despite the evening hour. She looked me over with the practiced discretion of someone trained never to acknowledge discomfort. The Byzantine reliquary is in the East Gallery. Shall I bring you the authentication documents? No need, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Just browsing for the collection. She nodded once and glided away. I pressed my fingertips against the cool velvet rope, trying to ground myself in something tactile, something real. The manuscript's illuminated angels stared back at me with medieval judgment. I'd spent so many years studying pieces like this, learning to read the symbolism in every brushstroke and gilded edge, but I'd never learned to read the dangers in my own past until it was too late. My hand drifted unconsciously to my left wrist, fingertips brushing against the edge of my sleeve where the brand hid beneath the fabric. The small raised mark, a stylized nightingale inside a compass rose, had been there for so long, I barely noticed it anymore. Matron Chambers had pressed the heated brand into my skin when I was 13 in the basement chapel of Mercy Hill. So the buyer always knows his investment, she'd whispered while I screamed. I'd never forgotten, but I'd spent 18 years trying to. That brand was about to destroy the anonymous life I'd built and pull me into a war between a mafia boss and the organization that had tried to sell me as a child. I reached for a bidding paddle from the display stand, checking the lot number for a religious triptych I had no intention of bidding on. Just the motion of normalcy, just the performance of someone who belonged here. That's when the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't dramatic, not at first. Just a subtle change in the energy of the room, like the air pressure dropping before a storm breaks. The hushed conversations at the nearby stations grew quieter. The coordinator straightened near the entrance, her professional demeanor replaced with something sharper, more alert. Even the music seemed to quiet, though I knew that was impossible. Then I saw him. Logan Pierce entered through the main doors flanked by two men in dark suits, Security, unmistakably. He moved with the controlled violence of someone who'd killed before and would again without hesitation. Expensive charcoal suit, perfectly tailored. Dark hair swept back. Eyes that looked dead until they found a target. I knew who he was. Everyone in Manhattan knew who he was. The mafia boss who'd lost his wife to a professional hit. The man who'd been systematically dismantling rival operations ever since, hunting for whoever ordered her execution. What I didn't know was that his dead wife had been investigating the same organization that had branded me, and that I was about to become his only lead. I should have looked away, should have blended back into the crowd of anonymous faces. But I was already having a panic attack from the religious artifacts surrounding me, and when the auctioneer unveiled the next lot, a medieval reliquary containing what was supposedly a saint's bone, my breath stopped completely. The reliquary was from Mercy Hill's chapel. I recognized the specific saint, the way the metalwork twisted, the Latin inscription that translated to, "The shepherd marks his flock." And before I could stop myself, before I could remember where I was and who might be listening, a single word escaped my lips like a prayer, like a curse, like the name I'd buried for 18 years. Nightingale. It was barely audible, a whisper, a ghost of sound. But Logan Pierce heard it. His head snapped toward me with predatory precision. His eyes locked onto mine across the gallery, and I watched his face transform. Recognition, shock, fury, grief, all compressed into a single moment of terrible understanding. Because that was the name Claire had whispered, over and over, before they killed her. He moved before I could think to run, crossed the space in seconds while his security team moved to block exits. His hand clamped down on my shoulder with bruising force, spinning me around to face him. Up close, his eyes weren't dead at all. They were burning. "How do you know that name?" His voice was deadly quiet, controlled violence wrapped in expensive cologne and barely contained rage. My wife Claire whispered that name for 3 days straight before assassins executed her. She wouldn't tell me what it meant, wouldn't tell me who it was. And now you're standing here having a breakdown at a charity auction, speaking the last word my wife ever said. My throat closed. Terror flooded my system. The same terror I'd felt at 13 when they told me I'd been purchased. When they explained what Nightingale meant. When they branded my wrist so the buyer would always know his investment. I don't... I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "Don't lie to me." He leaned closer, his voice dropping even lower. "My wife died investigating something. Something she wouldn't explain. Something connected to that name. And now you're here, saying it like a prayer, staring at medieval religious art like it's going to kill you." The other guests were staring now. The coordinator had her phone out, probably calling security that wouldn't dare touch Logan Pierce. "You're going to come with me," Logan said. It wasn't a request. "You're going to tell me everything you know about that name, about what my wife was investigating, about why she died with Nightingale on her lips." "I can't," I whispered. But even as I said it, I knew it was over. He'd heard the name I'd buried, the name that connected me to Claire, to Mercy Hill, to the sanctum, to everything I'd spent 18 years running from. "Yes," Logan said, his hand still iron on my shoulder. "You can. Because whoever killed my wife is still out there. And you just became the only lead I have." His security team closed in around us, a wall of expensive suits and concealed weapons. And I knew, with the terrible certainty that comes from experience, that my carefully constructed life of anonymity had just ended. The past I'd been running from had finally caught me. And this time, there was nowhere left to hide. What I was about to discover in Logan's penthouse would reveal a conspiracy far more dangerous than I'd imagined, and prove that the sanctum had never stopped hunting me. Logan's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building in Tribeca that probably cost more than most museums' annual budgets. The elevator opened directly into the space. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, everything designed to project power and control. But the room that dominated my attention was different. Claire's office, converted into something between a war room and a shrine. Declan Reed stood guard at the entrance, a silver-haired man with the bearing of someone who'd seen combat and never quite left it behind. He watched me with professional assessment as Logan guided me inside with a hand that hadn't left my shoulder since we'd left the auction. The office was covered in photographs, documents, maps connected by red string like something from a detective thriller. But these weren't fictional. Crime scene photos showed a woman, Claire, lying in an alley, 2 neat bullet holes in her chest. Professional, execution style. They took her research materials, Logan said, his voice tight. Burned her apartment. Thought they'd destroyed everything she'd gathered. He moved to a filing cabinet and pulled out folders. But I'm not stupid. I made copies of everything before they even knew I had them. He spread documents across the desk. Survivor testimonies. Coded references to something called the Sanctum. And then I saw it. A list of names that made my blood freeze. Nightingale. Sparrow. Dove. Wren. Finch. All birds. All code names. You recognize this, Logan said. It wasn't a question. My hands trembled as I reached for the papers. It's an inventory system. They used bird names for certain children. Ones marked for specific purposes. What purposes? I couldn't answer. Couldn't force the words past my throat. A younger man entered, late 20s, with Claire's dark eyes and sharp features. This is Owen Harrison, Logan said. Claire's brother, my intelligence operative. Owen studied me with barely contained grief and fury. My sister died for this. Whatever you know, you need to tell us. I don't. I've spent 18 years trying to forget. Claire's last encrypted message, Owen interrupted, pulling up a laptop. Took me 3 months to crack it. Want to know what it said? He turned the screen toward me. A single line of text. Nightingale knows the location. Find her before they do. The words on that screen changed everything. Claire had been hunting for me specifically, because I was the only one who knew where the Sanctum kept its evidence. The room spun. She was looking for me? You were at Mercy Hill Reform Institute, Logan said. You were there when something critical happened. Something they're still trying to hide. Claire died trying to find you because you know where the evidence is. I was 13, I whispered. They called me Subject 23. Codename Nightingale. I escaped during a transport. I've been hiding ever since. Declan spoke for the first time, his voice rough. They're still looking for you. The organization, the Sanctum. They don't forget their investments. Logan's hand finally left my shoulder, but only to grip the edge of the desk with white-knuckled force. Tell me everything. Every detail you remember. Because my wife died trying to expose these people, and you're going to help me finish what she started. I looked at Claire's face in the photographs. Young, determined, gone. And I realized I was done running. The chapel, I said. There's a hidden archive beneath the chapel at Mercy Hill. That's where they kept everything. The records, the transactions, the buyer identities. I was there once. I saw them moving files. That's why they wanted me back. I'm the only one who knows the exact location. Owen's fingers flew across his keyboard. Mercy Hill's been officially closed for 18 years. Officially? I repeated. But the Sanctum doesn't close. It just goes underground. Logan straightened, and I saw the predator emerge fully. Then that's where we're going. It's protected, I warned. Director Sterling has connections everywhere. Police, judges, politicians. That's how it stayed hidden for decades. I don't care about his connections, Logan said coldly. I care about justice for Claire, and you're going to help me get it. I looked at the evidence spread across the desk, at Claire's final message, at the code name that had haunted me for 18 years. Yes, I said. I am. Because Claire had died trying to find me. The least I could do was finish her mission. Even if it killed me too. If this moment hit you the way it hit me while writing it, a woman finally choosing to stop running and face the organization that tried to sell her as a child, take a second to subscribe. It tells me you want more stories about people refusing to let corrupt systems win, about survivors becoming warriors, about taking down the predators who think power makes them untouchable. Comment where you're watching from, and tell me. Would you have agreed to help Logan, knowing it meant confronting the nightmare you'd spent 18 years escaping? What Avery was about to hear in Claire's survivor testimonies would prove that the Sanctum's cruelty was even worse than she remembered, and that dozens of other children had suffered the same horrors. They kept me at Logan's estate in Westchester. A compound, really, with security that would make a military base jealous. I had a guest suite larger than my entire apartment, but the door was monitored, and Declan's team rotated guard shifts outside. I was a prisoner. A cooperative one, but still a prisoner. For 3 days, we worked through Claire's encrypted files. Logan had hired the best tech expert money could buy, a woman named Kira who broke through security layers like they were made of paper. And then we found them. Audio recordings. Survivor testimonies. These are from 2 years ago, Kira said, pulling up file after file. Claire was interviewing women who escaped Mercy Hill. Logan hit play on the first one. A woman's voice, shaking but determined. They called me Dove. I was 12 when they branded me. Matron Chambers held me down in the basement chapel while Director Sterling watched. They told me I was marked for a special buyer, someone who valued purity and obedience. Another recording. The selection process happened every 3 months. Men would come dressed as donors or clergy. They'd walk through the dormitories, examining us like livestock. Sterling would give them portfolios. We didn't know what was in them then. Now I know. Photographs, ages, designations. And another. I saw the branding ceremony. 7 of us at once. We were told it was God's mark, that we were chosen for holy purposes. But there was nothing holy about what they did to us. I listened to voice after voice, each describing the same nightmare I'd lived through, the same cold efficiency of Matron Chambers, the same false warmth of Director Sterling. Your turn, Logan said finally, turning to me. I pulled my sleeve up, revealing the brand on my wrist. The nightingale inside the compass rose, raised, and permanent. They called me Nightingale because I sang in the chapel choir, and because I was adaptable. That's what Sterling told the buyers. High intelligence, quick learner, good at reading people and situations, perfect for buyers who wanted future intelligence assets. Logan's knuckles were white where he gripped his coffee mug. Future assets? Spies, couriers, people who could infiltrate social circles and gather information. That's what Nightingale meant. My voice was flat, clinical. The only way I could get through this. I was being groomed to be someone's operative, someone who wanted a long-term investment. Who? Owen demanded. I don't know. I escaped before the transaction completed. But that wasn't entirely true. I remembered fragments. A man in an expensive suit. Sterling's obsequious tone. This one will serve you well for decades, Senator. Senator. What we discovered next would connect all the pieces, and reveal that Claire had been purchased by the same senator who'd tried to buy me. Owen pulled up Claire's notes on his laptop, and suddenly, everything connected. Claire's code name was Sparrow. Children designated for journalistic or political buyers, I said, the pieces falling into place with horrible clarity. People who needed whistleblowers they could control, or silence. Logan's voice was barely controlled. She was bought by someone in politics, someone who used her as a journalist to gather information, thinking she'd stay compliant forever. And when she didn't, Owen finished, his voice breaking, they killed her. We sat in silence, the weight of it crushing. Then Kira pulled up another file. There's something else. A children's rhyme Claire kept coming back to. She had multiple versions, like she was trying to perfect the wording. She read it aloud. 7 stones beneath the chapel door, where nightingales sing nevermore. The shepherd counts his flock by name, and marks the birds he means to claim. My breath stopped. I know that rhyme. The older girls used to whisper it. It was supposed to be a warning. Stay away from the chapel basement. But it's not just a warning. It's a map, Logan said. 7 stones beneath the chapel door, I repeated. It's literal. There's a pattern in the floor. 7 specific stones. If you know which ones, you can open the entrance to the archive. Owen was already typing. Claire died trying to figure this out. She knew there was a hidden location but couldn't find it. Because she didn't grow up there, I said. She wouldn't have known about the stones, but I do. I was there the night they moved files. I saw Matron Chambers and Sterling use the pattern. Logan stood. Then we go to Mercy Hill. We find this archive, and we expose everyone involved. Sterling will be waiting, I warned. He knows Claire was investigating. He probably knows she made copies of her research. He'll be watching for anyone who comes looking. Let him watch, Logan said coldly. I've waited 3 months for justice. I'm not waiting anymore. He looked at me, and I saw the same grief and fury I'd been carrying for 18 years. Claire died trying to save children like you, he said. Like her. We're going to finish what she started. I touched the brand on my wrist. Yes, I agreed. We are. Because the nightingale was done singing in cages. It was time to sing a different song. A war song. But before we could reach Mercy Hill, we needed to meet the one man who'd witnessed the Sanctum's operation from the inside. And he was about to pay the ultimate price for helping us. The bar in Brooklyn smelled like spilled beer and broken dreams. Walter Mills sat in the corner booth, nursing a whiskey that probably wasn't his first of the day. His hands shook as he raised the glass. You shouldn't have come here, he said when we sat down. Declan stayed near the entrance, watching. Owen positioned himself at the bar. Logan and I faced Walter across the scarred table. Claire Harrison came to see you, Logan said. 2 weeks before she died. Walter's eyes went distant. She asked about the children, about the system. I told her I didn't want to remember. She said remembering was the only way to stop it. Tell us what you told her, I said gently. He laughed, bitter and broken. I was the groundskeeper at Mercy Hill for 15 years. Thought I was working for a reform school, helping troubled kids. Took me 3 years to figure out what was really happening. The trafficking operation, Logan said. Walter nodded, taking another drink. Wealthy buyers would receive donor portfolios. That's what Sterling called them. Beautiful religious art, paintings, sculptures, illuminated manuscripts. But hidden in the imagery were codes. Specific saints meant age ranges. Colors indicated gender. Symbols revealed special designations. He looked at my wrist, at the edge of my sleeve. The bird names were for the special ones, high-value assets. Nightingale meant intelligence and adaptability. perfect for buyers wanting operatives they could groom long-term. Who were the buyers? Owen demanded. Politicians, business executives, foreign nationals, people with money and power who wanted investments that would pay off for decades. Walter's voice dropped. Senator Thomas Ashford was a regular, personal friend of Sterling's. He didn't just donate money, he selected children himself. Logan's jaw clenched. Ashford's on the Senate Intelligence Committee. That's why he wanted journalists he could control, Walter said. He'd purchase children with potential, groom them into specific careers, then use them as assets once they were adults. He bought your wife when she was 14, sponsored her education, helped her get journalism jobs. Also, he'd have someone inside newsrooms gathering intelligence. And when she refused to stay compliant, Logan said, his voice lethal, he had her killed. Walter nodded. Sterling has connections everywhere. Police chiefs who look the other way, judges who dismiss cases, social workers who file false reports. That's how the sanctum stayed hidden for 40 years. Where's the evidence? I asked. The records. The transactions. Where does Sterling keep it? Everything's in the chapel basement. He keeps it as insurance against his partners. If anyone betrays him, he can expose them all. It's a vault beneath the altar. Climate-controlled. Decades of documentation. He grabbed my hands suddenly, desperate. You can't go there. Sterling has security. Private military contractors. You'll never... The bar door opened. 2 men in dark suits entered. Not drinking. Not relaxing. Searching. Declan caught Logan's eye and nodded once. Back exit, Logan said quietly. Now. What happened in that alley would cost Walter his life, but his final words would give us the exact location we needed to find the sanctum's vault. We moved fast, Walter stumbling between Owen and me. Behind us, I heard chairs scraping, voices raised. Declan's gun was already drawn. The kitchen was chaos. Staff yelling, steam, grease. We crashed through to the back alley. The SUV was waiting, engine running. Then gunfire erupted. The men from the bar burst through the kitchen door, weapons drawn. Declan returned fire, covering us. Owen shoved Walter into the SUV, then pulled me in after. Logan was last, sliding in as Thomas, Logan's driver, hit the gas. More gunshots. The back window spiderwebbed but didn't shatter. Bulletproof glass, Logan said, calm despite everything. Go. Lose them. Thomas drove like he'd done this before, probably had, weaving through Brooklyn's streets while our pursuers gave chase. In the back seat, Walter was bleeding, gut shot. No, 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 Owen said, applying pressure. Stay with us. We need to get you to a hospital. But Walter grabbed Logan's jacket, pulling him close. His voice was fading. Sterling keeps everything. Insurance against his partners. Chapel basement. Constellation pattern on the floor. What constellation? I demanded. Lyra, Walter gasped. The lyre. Nightingales. Orpheus. His eyes went distant. Empty. Owen checked for a pulse, then shook his head. Logan sat back, his expression carved from stone. The sanctum just declared war. They killed him to keep him quiet, I said. And they'll kill us if we go to Mercy Hill, Owen added. Logan looked at me. Will you still help me? I thought about Claire, dead in an alley, about Walter, bleeding out in an SUV, about every child who'd been branded and sold. Yes, I said. We finish this, no matter what it costs. Because Walter's last words had given us what we needed. A constellation pattern. Lyra, the lyre. Associated in mythology with Orpheus and nightingales. The exact location of the hidden entrance. Claire had died trying to find it. Now we would. What my museum expertise was about to reveal would decode the sanctum's entire communication system. and prove that I'd been marked for a senator who'd never stopped hunting me. Back at Logan's command center, I spread Claire's research across the desk. Religious art portfolios, medieval manuscripts, illuminated texts featuring saints and symbols. This is how they communicated, I said, my museum training finally useful for something that mattered. Look, this painting shows Saint Cecilia, patron saint of music. That's code for children with artistic abilities. And this architectural element here, the compass rose, indicates navigation skills, adaptability, intelligence. Owen pulled up digital copies on his laptop. So each piece of art was actually a catalog entry? Exactly. The buyers would receive these portfolios during fundraising events, disguised as art appreciation materials. But if you knew the code, you could read the real information embedded in the imagery. I pointed to a series of bird illustrations in an illuminated manuscript. These are the special designations: nightingale, sparrow, dove, wren. Each one indicated a specific skill set and purpose. Logan stood behind me, his presence a wall of controlled fury. What did nightingale mean exactly? High intelligence, social adaptability, artistic ability, usually music or languages. Perfect for buyers wanting long-term intelligence assets. Children who could be groomed to infiltrate social circles, gather information, maintain cover identities for decades. The realization made me physically ill. I'd been marked as someone's future spy, someone's long-term investment in espionage. Who was your buyer? Logan asked quietly. I don't know. I escaped before the transaction completed. But I remember fragments. A man in an expensive suit. Sterling calling him Senator. Owen's face went white. Senator Ashford. He pulled up a photograph. Distinguished. Silver-haired. Sitting on the Senate Intelligence Committee. Claire's buyer, Logan said, his voice flat. He purchased her at 14. Sponsored her journalism education. Helped her get jobs at major newspapers. All so he'd have an asset inside newsrooms. And when she started investigating the sanctum, I continued, the pieces falling into horrific place. She was actually investigating her own buyer. The man who'd purchased and groomed her. Owen opened another file. Claire's code name was Sparrow. I nodded, my throat tight. Children designated for journalistic or political buyers. People who needed whistleblowers they could control, or silence when necessary. Sparrows were purchased specifically to become journalists, activists, researchers, positions where they could gather and leak information on command. But Claire refused, Logan said. She discovered what had been done to her and decided to expose everyone involved instead of staying compliant. So Ashford had her killed, Owen finished, his voice breaking. We sat in silence, the weight of Claire's sacrifice crushing. Then Logan spoke, his voice cold and absolute. Ashford's going to pay. Sterling's going to pay. Everyone involved in the sanctum is going to answer for what they did. They have protection at every level, I warned. Police, judges, politicians. I don't care, Logan interrupted. I've spent 3 months gathering resources. Money, weapons, people. I'm ready for war. He looked at me. Are you? I touched the brand on my wrist. The nightingale that had marked me as property, as an investment, as someone's future tool. I'm ready, I said. Claire died hunting these people. The least I can do is finish what she started. Owen pulled up a map. Mercy Hill Reform Institute. Closed 18 years ago. Officially abandoned. But based on Walter's information and the maintenance records Claire found, someone's still maintaining the chapel basement. The archive, I said. Sterling keeps it as insurance. If any of his partners betray him, he can expose them all with the documentation. Then that's our target, Logan decided. We go to Mercy Hill. We find the archive. We secure the evidence. And then we bring the sanctum down. Declan entered, his expression grim. Boss, I need to talk to you. They stepped into the hallway. I heard muted conversation, then Logan's voice raised in anger. I don't care if it's a trap. We're going anyway. He returned, his jaw set. Declan thinks Sterling knows we're coming, that he'll be waiting with security. He's probably right, I said. Doesn't matter. We're going tomorrow. Tomorrow? I repeated. We need more time to plan. We don't have more time. Logan cut me off. The sanctum just killed Walter to keep him quiet. They know we're getting close. If we wait, they'll move the evidence. Destroy it. We go tomorrow, or we lose our only chance. He was right, and I knew it. Then we need to be ready for a fight, I said. Logan smiled, cold and predatory. I'm always ready for a fight. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood at the window of my guest suite, looking out at the estate grounds lit by security lights. Tomorrow, I'd return to the place that had destroyed my childhood. The place where I'd been branded, categorized, and sold like merchandise. But I wouldn't be alone, and I wouldn't be running anymore. Tomorrow, the nightingale would sing, and the sanctum would learn that some birds, once caged, come back with talons. What I was about to face at Mercy Hill would either free me from 18 years of terror or kill me in the place where my nightmare began. The convoy left before dawn. 3 SUVs, all bulletproof. All carrying armed men who moved with the precision of former military. Declan led the tactical team. Owen handled communications and tech. Logan sat beside me in the middle vehicle, his presence both comforting and terrifying. You don't have to do this, he said quietly as we drove north. You could stay at the estate. Let us handle it. No, I said. I'm the only one who knows the exact location of the stones, the constellation pattern. You need me there. And if Sterling's waiting, then we deal with it. But my hands were shaking, had been since we'd left the estate. 2 hours later, we turned off the highway onto a narrow road that wound through dense forest. And then I saw it. Mercy Hill Reform Institute. Gothic nightmare of stone and iron. Official closed 18 years but still standing like a monument to horror. The gates were rusted but intact. The buildings were deteriorating, covered in graffiti and vegetation. But the basic structure remained. My breath came in short gasps. Panic attack building. Logan's hand found mine. Squeezed. Look at me. Not the buildings. Me. I forced myself to focus on his face. Dark eyes. Strong jaw. Controlled fury barely contained. You're not 13 anymore, he said. You're not powerless. And you're not alone. I nodded, trying to believe it. But what waited for us in that chapel would prove that some nightmares don't end. They just wait in the dark, ready to resurface the moment you return. Declan's team cut through the gate chains. We drove onto the property, and every cell in my body screamed to run. But I didn't. Logan stayed close as we entered through the main building. The dormitories where we'd slept. The dining hall where we'd eaten in silence. The classroom where Sterling had taught us about holy purpose. My body remembered what my mind had tried to forget. Every turn, every hallway, navigated with terrible precision. The chapel's this way, I said, my voice barely audible. We walked through what had been the courtyard. Overgrown now, nature reclaiming what humans had corrupted. And there it was, the chapel. Stone structure with broken stained glass depicting angels and shepherds. The place where I'd been branded. Where I'd screamed while Matron Chambers pressed heated metal to my wrist and Sterling watched with cold satisfaction. Logan's hand on my shoulder brought me back. We're here. Show us. I led them inside. The interior was decay and shadows. Broken pews. Shattered windows. But the altar remained intact. The rhyme, I said, kneeling. 7 stones beneath the chapel door, where nightingales sing nevermore. I traced the floor with shaking hands, looking for the pattern, the constellation. And then I saw it. 7 stones arranged in the shape of Lyra, the lyre, associated with Orpheus, who descended into the underworld. Associated with nightingales, whose song could move the gods. Here, I whispered. Owen helped me press the stones in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Something clicked deep below. A section of the floor shifted, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. Cold air rose from below. Climate controlled. Someone had been maintaining this. Logan touched my shoulder. You don't have to go down there. I looked at him. At the man whose wife had died trying to reach this moment. At the survivor standing with an army at his back. Yes, I said, my voice steel. I do. Claire died trying to get here. I'm finishing what she started. Logan nodded once, then to his team. Declan, take point. Owen, stay close to Avery. Everyone else, standard formation. Weapons ready. If Sterling's down there, we contain him. If he resists, we put him down. We descended into darkness. Into the archive where the sanctum kept its secrets. Into the vault where children's lives had been catalogued and sold for 40 years. And I knew, with terrible certainty, that whatever we found down there would change everything. The nightingale was about to sing, and the sanctum would burn. What we discovered in that vault would expose 40 years of horror. But Sterling and Senator Ashford were already there, waiting to make sure we never left alive. The staircase descended into a corridor lit by emergency lights, clearly maintained despite the Institute's official closure. The temperature dropped, precisely climate-controlled. This wasn't abandonment. This was preservation. Declan moved ahead, weapon raised, checking corners with tactical precision. The rest of the team fanned out behind him. Logan kept me in the center of the formation, protected. The corridor opened into a vault. Metal filing cabinets lined the walls, dozens of them, each drawer labeled with years. Computer servers hummed in the corner, their lights blinking steadily. This was no relic. The sanctum had digitized its operation. My God, Owen breathed. I moved to the nearest cabinet, pulled open a drawer. Manila folders, each one containing a child's intake file. Photographs, background information, medical records, and then the designation, nightingale, sparrow, dove. Each one marked for a specific buyer. There must be thousands, Logan said, his voice hollow. 40 years, I said. 40 years of children processed through this system. I forced myself to keep searching. Found the drawer labeled with my year. Pulled folders until I found mine. Subject 23. Real name, Avery Chase. Formerly Emma Mitchell. They'd recorded my birth name even though I'd legally changed it. Code name, Nightingale. Age at intake, 11. Designation, high-value intelligence asset suitable for long-term grooming. And then the list of interested buyers. 3 names, heavily redacted. But one notation at the end that made my blood freeze. Acquisition incomplete. Subject escaped during transport. Marked for recovery. Primary buyer, Senator T.A., willing to wait indefinitely. Senator T.A. Thomas Ashford. They've been looking for me, I whispered. For 18 years. Ashford never stopped trying to reclaim his investment. Logan took the file from my shaking hands. His face went deadly calm, the kind of calm that preceded violence. Owen was at the computers, external drives already plugged in. I'm copying everything. This is going to take time. Then we make time, Declan said, positioning his team at the vault entrance. If Sterling comes... Engines. Multiple vehicles approaching fast. Too late, Declan finished grimly. We've got company. Logan pulled me behind a row of filing cabinets. Stay down. Don't move until I say. Logan. Avery. His eyes locked on mine. I'm not losing you the way I lost Claire. Stay. Down. Then he moved to the vault entrance with Declan, weapon drawn. Footsteps on the stairs. Multiple people, coming slowly, confidently. Director Nathan Sterling entered first. He looked exactly as I remembered. Elderly but distinguished, silver hair perfectly styled, expensive suit immaculate. He could have been anyone's kindly grandfather, except for his eyes. Cold, calculating, empty of mercy. Senator Thomas Ashford followed, face expressionless, and behind them, a dozen private security contractors in tactical gear, heavily armed. Sterling smiled when he saw me half hidden behind the cabinets. Subject 23, he said, his voice warm as poison. Nightingale, you were always one of our most exceptional products. Such intelligence, such adaptability. He took a step closer. Logan moved to block him. Mr. Pierce, Sterling continued, I'm so sorry about Claire. Truly. She was one of our success stories. Brilliant journalist. Exactly what Senator Ashford needed. Such a tragedy that she refused to see reason. You killed her, Logan said, his voice lethal. I made a business decision, Sterling corrected. She was threatening to expose an organization that has served powerful people for 4 decades. I couldn't allow that. Senator Ashford spoke for the first time, his voice flat. She was my asset, my investment. When she began investigating instead of following instructions, she became a liability. You bought her when she was 14, Owen snarled, weapon raised. You groomed her, used her, and when she refused to stay silent, you had her murdered. I did what was necessary, Ashford replied without emotion. Just as I'm doing now. Sterling's smile widened. And look what dear Nightingale has brought us. Every one of Claire's co-conspirators delivered right to our doorstep. You've made this remarkably easy, my dear. His security team spread out, outnumbering us at least 3-1. We were trapped. You're not leaving with that evidence, Logan said. Oh, but we are, Sterling replied. And you're not leaving at all. Such a tragedy. A mafia boss and his associates, killed while breaking and entering on private property. The local police will be very understanding. They always are. I saw it then. Saw the future Sterling had planned. Our bodies disposed of. The evidence remaining hidden. The sanctum continuing its operations, protected by politicians and police, and 40 years of successful corruption. Claire had died trying to stop this. We were about to die the same way. Unless... But what Sterling didn't know was that I'd spent years studying architecture, and I'd just spotted the vault's critical weakness. I looked up, saw the sprinkler system. The electrical junction box mounted on the wall near where I was crouched. Caught Logan's eye. Mouthed, "Fire protocol." His eyes widened slightly. Understanding. I lunged for the junction box, ripped open the panel, and pulled the fire alarm with all my strength. Chaos erupted. Sprinklers activated instantly, soaking everyone. Emergency lights strobed. And Logan's team, ready for the distraction, engaged Sterling's security in brutal close-quarters combat. I ran for the filing cabinets, grabbed the buyer registry, the financial records, everything that looked critical. Owen was there, protecting me while still downloading files. 30 seconds, he gasped. I need 30 more seconds. Sterling lunged for me, surprisingly fast for his age. You ungrateful little... Logan intercepted him, slammed him against a filing cabinet. You're done. Then I saw her. The woman who'd branded me. The woman who'd haunted my nightmares for 18 years. And this time I wasn't 13 and powerless. Then I saw her. Matron Ruth Chambers. Elderly now, but still cold-eyed. Still moving with the methodical precision I remembered from childhood. The woman who'd held me down. Who'd pressed the brand to my wrist. Who'd told me I was marked for a special buyer. She smiled at me. Hello, Nightingale. Did you really think you could escape forever? Something inside me broke. Or maybe it healed. I dropped the files, grabbed a metal tray from a nearby shelf, and swung it at her head with all 18 years of buried rage. She went down. I didn't stop. Hit her again. Again. Until Logan pulled me back. Avery, she's done. It's done. Across the vault, Senator Ashford had drawn a concealed pistol, aimed at Owen. No! I screamed. The shot went wide. Logan's didn't. Ashford dropped, blood pooling beneath him. Sterling stared at his dead partner, then at Logan. You've just killed a United States Senator. They'll execute you for this. Self-defense, Logan replied coldly. Recorded by about 6 different cameras my team planted before we even entered. He gestured to small devices positioned throughout the vault. Everything that just happened is documented. Your confession, your security team attacking us, Ashford drawing first. All of it. Sterling's face went ashen. Sirens wailed in the distance. Not local police. Declan had contacts in the FBI. Real investigators. Not ones on the Sanctum's payroll. It's over, I said to Sterling. The evidence is copied. The recordings are uploaded. By tomorrow, every major news network will have this story. You've destroyed 40 years of careful work, Sterling whispered. Good, I said. That's exactly what Claire would have wanted. And as FBI agents swarmed the vault, as Sterling was forced to his knees and handcuffed, as Matron Chambers was carried out on a stretcher, I touched the brand on my wrist. The nightingale had sung, and the sanctum had fallen. If you're feeling what I'm feeling right now, watching survivors finally get justice, watching a corrupt system burn, watching the people who thought they were untouchable face consequences, hit that subscribe button. Because this story isn't just about Avery and Logan. It's about every person who was told they were powerless, every survivor who was told to stay silent, every victim of systems designed to protect predators instead of children. Comment below. What would you have done in Avery's position when she saw Matron Chambers again? Would you have shown mercy? Or would 18 years of trauma have demanded something else? What happened in the days after the Sanctum's fall would prove that justice, when it finally comes, echoes far beyond a single arrest. The FBI raid continued for hours. The evidence was overwhelming. Decades of documentation, hundreds of victims, thousands of transactions. By morning, the story broke on every major news network. Senator Thomas Ashford was dead. Director Nathan Sterling faced multiple life sentences. Matron Ruth Chambers and 9 other Institute staff members were arrested on trafficking, conspiracy, and murder charges. Most importantly, 12 children currently held in active sanctum operations across 7 states were recovered within 48 hours. Logan and I stood at Claire's grave 3 days later. Media helicopters circled, but Logan had purchased enough security to keep them at a distance. He placed a photograph on her headstone, a small sparrow in flight, wings spread wide, with a single word beneath. Free. I touched my wrist, the Nightingale brand visible in the morning light. She would have been proud of you, Logan said quietly. Of us, I corrected. She started this. We just finished it. He turned to face me. What will you do now? The evidence is secured. Sterling will spend the rest of his life in prison. You're finally safe. I looked at the brand again, at the mark that had defined me for 18 years. I'm done being safe, I said. I'm done hiding. Claire died trying to expose the sanctum. I'm going to make sure her death meant something. What are you proposing? A foundation, in her name, dedicated to finding every remaining cell of the sanctum's network, supporting survivors, hunting down every buyer and facilitator who profited from this. Logan studied me for a long moment. That's going to take resources, money, security, intelligence operations. I know. You'll be making powerful enemies. People who want this buried. I know that too. He smiled. The first real smile I'd seen from him. Then let me help. My money. My network. My people. Everything I have, dedicated to Claire's mission. I met his eyes. You'd do that? She was my wife. You're the one who helped me get justice for her. Yes, I'd do that. What do I need? I asked. Tell me. I looked at Claire's grave, at the sparrow flying free. I need the sanctum burned to the ground. Every operation, every safe house, every person who knew and did nothing. I need them to understand that the children they bought and branded weren't products. We were people, and we're coming for everyone who forgot that. Logan extended his hand. Then let's go to war. I shook it. The Claire Harrison Foundation was born that day, and the Sanctum's remaining operations learned what it meant to be hunted. 6 months later, the woman who'd once hidden her brand in shame would walk into the U.S. Senate wearing it like armor, and the world would finally understand what Nightingale really meant. 6 months later, I walked into a Senate hearing room wearing a short-sleeved blouse, my Nightingale brand clearly visible. I was no longer hiding. The Claire Harrison Foundation had become legendary in both survivor advocacy circles and law enforcement. Logan's resources funded sophisticated intelligence operations, legal teams, and support programs. My testimony had triggered federal investigations in 17 states. During a break in the proceedings, Logan joined me on the courthouse steps. News cameras captured us together, the Mafia Boss and the survivor, an alliance that had brought down one of the largest trafficking networks in modern history. Claire would be proud, Logan said. I shook my head. She'd be proud of us. This is her mission. We're just the ones who survived to finish it. We reviewed the latest intelligence report. 4 additional Sanctum-connected operations identified. Buyer networks in 3 countries exposed. 27 survivors located and offered resources and support. The work was endless, brutal, traumatic, but I'd found my purpose in the ashes of my past. I touched the Nightingale brand one final time before returning to testify. No longer a mark of ownership, a declaration of war against everyone who thought they could buy, brand, and break children without consequence. The hunt continued, and Nightingale sang. If this story touched your heart, please share in the comments where you're watching from around the world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that help sometimes comes from the most unexpected places. Your support keeps these stories alive.